first off, we're going to hear about everything that's going on around the globe. We have so much anxiety about what's happening inside our country, but there's unfortunately also a lot to be anxious about what's going on with this Biden foreign policy around the globe. We are now joined by the former director of DNI and ambassador to Germany, Rick Grinnell. Rick, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, guys. So good to see you. This is a no anxiety show, though. We're gonna talk about solutions, no anxiety.
I love it. I love that approach. Maybe you can come to our house and take out the anxiety out of our poor children, where some of them are stuck at home. But I agree, it is about solutions. But Rick, let's be honest. What we're looking at right now with the Biden administration, their silence on what we're seeing happening in this situation in Israel, where Hamas basically has attacked Israel with several rockets. They were targeting this country and the Israeli people. We got to be concerned. Aren't we concerned about this?
We have to be very concerned. Imagine for a moment, I think that what we want to say to our CPAC audience is, imagine if we were getting rockets from Canada or Mexico. I think it would take the American people and the American government about 5 minutes to respond with incredible force to say, knock it off, this is not going to happen. And that's what's happening in Israel. There's a lot of talk about Israel having an iron dome. I want to be very clear to the Palestinian people and to the Palestinian Authority. You have the ability to have an iron dome as well, to ensure that nobody attacks you. Don't attack others. That's your iron dome. Your security is, don't start throwing rockets and start controlling Hamas. We all know, Matt and Mercy, we all know that this is coming from the Iranian regime. You look at the Ayatollah's Twitter feed, and he's been talking about this for the last week, saying that Israel isn't a country, saying that the Palestinian issue is ground zero for all Arabs. This attack is clearly being supported by the Iranian regime. And I have to say, this is what's troubling with the Biden administration, because you look at the change in policy from Trump to Biden when it comes to the Middle East, and look no further than we've invited the Iranian regime to talks and said that we're going to redo the JCPOA Iran deal. We've started giving money to the Palestinian Authority after Donald Trump froze them out. And what do we get when the United States government gives money to the Palestinian Authority, gives access to the Iranian regime to U.S. diplomacy, tactics, and negotiation? We get this response on Israel? Well, I think someone needs to tell Jake Sullivan, this is not working. His weakness, his ability to go out and pay the Palestinian Authority and reward the Iranian regime is coming back and making us not secure. It's making American security a issue once again in the Middle East.
Rick, do you think that the Ayatollah should have a Twitter feed?
Look, Twitter has kicked off Donald Trump, but the Ayatollah is allowed to have a Twitter feed. So is Foreign Minister Zarif, the Iranian regime foreign minister, who constantly spews hate. Look, we just saw the Iranian regime allow the beheading of a young gay man inside Iran. This is a regime that's brutal, that denies basic human rights on a daily basis. The irony is that the Iranian regime is allowed to be on Twitter, but the Iranian people are not, nor is Donald Trump.
So what do you believe is going to be the timeline for Biden to move in removing these sanctions on Iran? Obviously they've already kind of shown their hand that that's the direction they're going to go in.
Yeah, I think there's two troubling signs coming out of Jake Sullivan's NSC. One is word that the Iranians are saying, which is they're going to be rewarded just for coming to the table. We're going to loosen sanctions on them just because they decide to show up at a meeting. And this is the problem of the Democratic progressive left. And I will say many in Europe as well, is that they believe that scheduling a meeting is actually progress. I actually believe scheduling a meeting is a tactic towards getting us to a conversation that might or might not provide progress. But the Democrats always view this differently. They want to reward people for coming to a meeting, and I think that's dangerous. And the second thing that we have to be really concerned about is the news coming out that the Biden administration has allowed the British government to pay for hostages and the return of hostages. Now, when you do that, you automatically increase the value on a Western head, on an individual of a Western country. And that's dangerous because that just means an American is going to be taken in the future in order to have a bounty put on their head, and a Western government will be asked to pay, and it will be more money than we've ever paid before. So the precedent for paying for a hostage release is a terrible precedent and makes every one of us less safe.